Do not step past the gallery bridge, or I'll break your legs. To protect Chen Pingnan, Lu Xianyang decided to sell the family armor to a beautiful lady. Chen Pingnan was shocked upon hearing this decision and questioned Lu Xianyang. Are you crazy? Why are you selling our family belongings to outsiders? Lu Xianyang tightly hugged the boy in straw sandals around the neck, scolding sternly. What do you know? A great future lies ahead of me. Why should I miss out for nothing? Chen Pingnan remained doubtful, unable to believe this was Lu Xianyang's true intention. Lu Xianyang sighed and explained, the lady wants to buy our ancestral armor. Meanwhile, the other master and servant want a sword manual. My grandfather told me on his deathbed that if things got really tough, the armor could be sold, but it must not be sold cheaply. However, the sword manual, even in death, should never be admitted to exist in our Lu family. I agreed to sell the armor to the lady, Lu Xianyang continued. Besides negotiating the price, I also requested one condition. After obtaining the armor, she must convince the brawny old man not to bother me for the near future. Just a buffer. Once I become Master Ruan's apprentice, all these issues will cease to exist. Chen Pingnan bluntly asked, Why don't you just stall the lady? She can't come to the blacksmith shop to trouble you. Besides, she can't barge in and snatch your family's armor. Liu Shan let go, squatting on the west side and throwing a stone into the stream. He sneered. The armor can be sold. Now that there's a fair price, isn't that good enough? It could make things more secure. Perhaps Miss Ning won't even need to take a risky move. That's why I think we shouldn't switch. Chen Pingnan also squatted down, hastily persuading, How do you know the price now is really fair? What if you regret it later? The tall youth turned his head, grinning. Regret? Think carefully. Since we've known each other all these years, when have I ever done anything I regretted? Chen Pingnan scratched his head, still feeling something was off. But the boy wasn't good with words and didn't know how to convince Lu Xianyang. Lu Xianyang had always lived freely, as if no obstacle had ever stood in his way. No emotional knots he couldn't untangle, no problems he couldn't solve. Lu Xianyang stood up, kicked the basket on the back of the boy in straw sandals and said, Hurry up, and return this to Master Ruan. When I officially become his apprentice, you can come and see for yourself. Chen Pingnan slowly stood up, wanting to say something but held back. Lu Xianyang laughed and cursed. Chen Pingnan, you idiot! Am I selling your family heirloom, or your wife? As Chen Pingnan handed over the basket, he tentatively asked, Still not going to reconsider? Lu Xianyang took the basket, stepped back a few steps, and suddenly jumped up high, performing a flashy spinning kick. After landing steadily, Lu Xianyang, full of pride, smiled and asked, Impressive, right? Scared yet? Chen Pingnan rolled his eyes and said, Idiot. After leaving Ruan's shop, Chen Pingnan, deep in thought, waded into the stream to pick up stones. Maybe it was due to his unease, or perhaps because the water level had dropped, but today's haul wasn't great. By the time Chen Pingnan reached the gallery bridge, he had only collected about 20 snake gall stones, none of them impressive or eye-catching, and none that made him fall in love at first sight. Chen Pingnan took off his basket and fish trap, placing them in the grass on the western side. He took a deep breath, turned away from the stream, and began practicing his stance. After a round, Chen Pingnan felt a sudden tension in his heart. He noticed something near where he had hidden his basket and fish trap. A short boy was crouching with a green foxtail grass dangling from his mouth. He was the grandson of Grandma Ma from Xinghua Alley and had been considered a fool since childhood. In the minds of the young people, Grandma Ma left a terrible impression. She was stingy and mean. As a result, her precious grandson was often bullied. Every time the boy went out in new clothes and shoes, he would be chased and bullied by other boys. Within half an hour, he would be covered in dust, his new clothes ruined. His name was Ma Huchuan, and he had long been forgotten by others due to his strange behavior. Even when bullied, he never complained to Grandma Ma, nor did he cry or seek sympathy. He always kept a calm expression, with cold eyes. For this reason, the children of Xinghua Alley didn't like to play with him. Ma Huchuan learned early on to play alone, often watching the clouds from dirt mounds or rooftops. Chen Pingnan never bullied Ma Huchuan, nor did he pity him. Though they shared a similar misfortune, Chen Ping'an never thought to seek comfort in each other's company, because he always felt that Ma Huchuan wasn't truly foolish. In fact, deep down, Ma Huchuan was more like Song Jiqing, perhaps even more so. They never seemed to speak, yet it was as if they were both silently waiting for something, as if they were owed something by heaven, which they would one day claim. That boy no longer seemed like the fool he once was. His speech was clear, and he smiled as he asked, "You're Chen Ping'an from Niping Alley, right? You live next to Jigui." Chen Ping'an nodded and replied, "Do you need something?" The boy smiled slightly and pointed at Chen Ping'an's basket. "You might not have noticed," he said, "but the stream's water has dropped a lot. The best stones are only left under the gallery bridge, in the deep pool, and at the Green Ox's back pit. The ones in your basket won't hold their essence and will soon lose their quality. Some might make good sharpening stones, while others could become ink stones for scholars. In the end, they still have value and can be sold for a good price. But whatever, you probably wouldn't understand." Chen Ping'an smiled and simply replied, "Huh?" He didn't say anything more. The boy suddenly added, "Hey, you were practicing boxing in the stream earlier." Chen Ping'an remained silent, but Ma Huchuan's eyes gleamed as he smiled and said, "So, you're not a fool either. We're probably the same kind of people." Chen Ping'an walked around him, saying, "I'll be going now," and picked up his basket to leave. The boy, still squatting in the distance, spat out the foxtail grass and muttered, "Your boxing form is lacking, too many flaws. No matter how much you practice, you won't get anything special out of it." From behind, a man's voice called out with a laugh, "Retrieve our military token back. Remember to call me master next time." The boy didn't respond, standing up and asking, "Can you show me that small building?" The young martial uncle from Tong Yunu's sect fought a battle, but the man shook his head and said, "Not ready yet." He then grew annoyed and asked, "Why did you deliberately ruin that woman's water-viewing star realm? Don't you know that once you do something like that, you become lifelong mortal enemies?" The boy, with an indifferent expression, replied, "The path of the Tao is difficult. If one can't endure such hardship, how can they ever hope to achieve the lofty state of eternal longevity and peace?" The man scoffed, "You haven't even set foot in the gate, yet you speak so boastfully. Aren't you afraid of biting your own tongue?" The boy finally grinned, revealing sharp white teeth, and laughed. "In the future, if I encounter a similar opportunity to break through, I'll let that woman know in advance. When the time comes, master, you must not interfere. Let her try to mess up my plans all she wants." The man sighed. "Do you not understand? The bonds of karma in this world vary in size, fortune varies in thickness, and the roots of people vary in strength. If you judge everyone by your own standards, one day, you'll meet someone with stronger fists, greater cultivation, and higher realms. If they're in a bad mood, they might just shatter your bridge to immortality with one punch. How will you handle that?" The boy smiled. "Then I'll accept my fate." The man, feeling helpless, said, "I won't reason with you anymore. Talking to you is like playing music to a cow." The boy suddenly asked, "How does that guy from Niping Alley know the value of the stones in the water? He's even started practicing boxing." Suddenly, the man's expression became stern. "Ma Huchuan, no matter how rebellious your nature is, there's one thing you must always remember. As orthodox military sword cultivators, we practice one sword to break all techniques, one sword to follow our true selves, one sword to seek invincibility. But we absolutely do not kill the innocent, nor do we bully common people, and we must never, out of jealousy, lay traps for our fellow cultivators." The boy stretched lazily and said, "Master, you're overthinking it. No matter how capable that guy is, as long as he doesn't provoke me, he has nothing to do with me. In the end, no matter how successful these people from the town become, they'll only ever be stepping stones for me. I should be grateful to them, not the other way around." The man sighed helplessly. "I can't get through to you. I expect that Zhenwu Mountain won't have peace in the future." The boy curiously asked, "What's your rank in Zhenwu Mountain?" The man smiled but didn't answer. "Let's not talk about that. It's embarrassing." The boy rolled his eyes. "Had I known this earlier, I would have reconsidered becoming your disciple." The man just smiled. There was something he hadn't made clear to his disciple. There are many types of geniuses in this world with varying talents. That straw sandal boy earlier, his seemingly plain six-step stance, was actually full of hidden intent. Chen Ping'an didn't head straight back to Liu Shanyang's house. Instead, he went to Niping Alley and told Ning Yao about Liu Shanyang's plan. After listening, Ning Yao didn't comment. She only said, "That's between the two of you. I only collect money and solve problems for others. If Liu Shanyang manages to avoid disaster without my intervention, I'll return the 3 bags of copper coins." Chen Ping'an said, "This isn't about the money." Ning Yao replied coldly, "Are you trying to talk emotions with me? Are we at that point?" Chen Ping'an was almost choked by her words and could only scratch his head by the door. Ning Yao glanced at the pastries Chen Ping'an had brought, cheap yet tasty glutinous rice cakes and more expensive yulu dumplings. Clearly, the boy had tried his best to be a good host. For the first time, the girl felt a bit guilty and soft-hearted. She thought she might have been a little unfair. She had eaten and stayed at his place, and even though he couldn't help much with his troubles, he shouldn't be adding fuel to the fire. So she asked, could it be that Liu Shanyan was facing a real life-threatening situation at Tijanpu, so he had to sell that black monkey armor? Perhaps there were henchmen of the 4 surnames hiding in the shop, and they secretly taught Liu Shanyan a lesson? Chen Ping'an thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, Liu Shanyang is definitely not the kind of person who would surrender under threats. I remember the first time I met him, even when he was beaten up so badly by the guys from Fuluji that he spat blood, he didn't say a word of surrender. He just endured it all, nearly being beaten to death. After all these years, Liu Shanyang hasn't changed, he added. Ning Yao asked, bold and brave, honor-bound, risking his life for promises. But honestly, such valiant wanderers are not rare. I've seen many like that on my journey, but when true power comes, with a new kind of temptation, can Liu Shanyang really stay true to himself? Chen Ping'an fell into deep thought again. Finally, with a firm gaze, he said, Liu Shanyang wouldn't become reckless just because someone gave him something. He has deep feelings for his grandfather. Unless, as he said, his grandfather's last words were to sell the treasured armor, but not sell it cheaply, and that the sword manual must stay with the Liu family and be passed down to future generations. Ning Yao responded, from what I know, that monkey armor isn't bad, but it's not extremely rare either. But the sword manual, since it's coveted by Zhengyang Mountain for so long, and they even sent 2 people here to retrieve it, clearly, they consider it already theirs. So it must be something valuable, she concluded. So, it makes sense that Liu Shanyang made the decision to sell the armor. Chen Ping'an nodded in agreement. Ning Yao, stroking the green sword scabbard, her eyes cold and determined, said, I'll go with you to Liu Shanyang's house, and we'll deal with the rich man first. Since Liu Shanyang personally said he wants to sell it, let's move the box with the armor. After that, I'll go with you to Ruan's shop and talk to Liu Shanyang to see what he's really thinking. If it really was his grandfather's dying wish, then we shouldn't meddle in it. Every family has its own struggles. If it's not something for you to interfere with, then don't. Ning Yao added, if it's not, let him explain his troubles, and if necessary, I'll get that box back myself. Chen Ping'an asked worriedly, Miss Ning, are you sure your body can handle it? Ning Yao sneered, if we're talking about Zhengyang Mountain's Banshan, old Yuan would definitely be humiliated. But if that woman's in this town, one hand is enough for me. Curious, Chen Ping'an asked. Banshan? Ning Yao casually explained, an ancient ferocious beast left in this world. Its true form is a massive ape as large as a mountain. They say when it reveals its true form, it can lift a mountain from its roots and carry it away. But these are just rumors. After all, no one has really seen Zhengyang Mountain. It's been hiding for hundreds of years. Its foundation is deep. Though the sect isn't highly ranked in Dongbao Pingzhou, it can't be underestimated. So, if we can avoid conflict with them, it's best. If we do have a conflict, Chen Ping'an asked cautiously, what if there's a conflict? Ning Yao stood up, her thumb pushing the blade out of its scabbard by an inch, her eyes looking at the straw sandal boy like he was an idiot. With full confidence, she said, what else can we do? We kill them. Chen Ping'an swallowed hard. Afterward, the boy, carrying his basket, and the girl, now wearing her hat again, with her green sword at her waist, slowly made their way to Liu Shenyang's ancestral home. Ning Yao glanced at the boy's basket and asked, "Why is it so little today?" Chen Ping'an sighed. "Mahuxuan, Grandma Ma's grandson from Xinghua Alley, he's about my age, but now it seems like he's become a completely different person." According to Mahuxuan, the town's feng shui has changed, which is why the stones in the stream can no longer retain their essence. Ning Yao's expression grew serious, and she said, "Chen Ping'an, he's right. This town is about to change dramatically. You'd better resolve your matters quickly and leave the town as soon as possible. Even if you leave and come back later, it's better than staying here too long." Chen Ping'an, having lived alone since childhood, was not someone who stubbornly charged into trouble without considering the consequences. He understood human interactions and timing better than most. He nodded and said, "I'll do that. As soon as I see Liu Shanyang and Ruan share their master-disciple tea, I'll leave right away. Hopefully by then, Master Ruan will also agree to forge a sword for you." Looking at Chen Ping'an's joyful face, Ning Yao couldn't help but wonder, why are you so happy about things that have nothing to do with you? Feeling that they had grown more familiar with each other, Chen Ping'an spoke more freely. "Liu Shanyang, you and Ning Yao, think about it. There are so many people in the world, but I only care about the well-being of 3 people. How does that make me a pushover?" Ning Yao smiled and asked, "Where do I rank among those 3? Chen Ping'an responded earnestly, "For now, 3rd place." Ning Yao unsheathed her sword and casually held it in her hand, gently tapping Chen Ping'an on the shoulder with the scabbard. With a smirk, she said, "Chen Ping'an, you should be grateful I didn't kill you." Chen Ping'an, puzzled, asked, "Wouldn't that bother you?" Ning Yao froze for a moment, then understanding his logic, said, "Chen Ping'an, I just realized that even if you leave this place, you'll do just fine out there." Chen Ping'an wasn't greedy at all and sincerely said, "As long as things stay as good as they are now, that's enough." Ning Yao smiled faintly, gently swinging the green sword in her hand, like a country girl swinging a flower branch. As they rounded the corner near Liu Shanyang's house, a shadow suddenly darted out. Ning Yao nearly drew her sword, but thankfully held back just in time. It turned out to be a yellow dog circling Chen Ping'an affectionately. Chen Ping'an bent down and rubbed the dog's head. As he stood up, he said, "It belongs to the family next to Liu Shanyang's house. His name is Laifu, and he's been around for many years. He's very timid." Chen Ping'an explained that Laifu used to follow him and Liu Shanyang up the mountain, but couldn't catch rabbits or pheasants, much to Liu Shanyang's disappointment. Now, Laifu was over 10 years old and showing signs of age. Chen Ping'an bent down again, softly stroking Laifu's head, and said, "You're getting old, right? Don't worry. When I make lots of money in the future, I'll make sure you're never hungry." Ning Yao shook her head, unable to fully relate to this sentiment. Despite her many experiences on the road, seeing both high-ranking immortal masters and ordinary people, she remained somewhat detached. Ning Yao resembled those wandering Buddhist monks, steadily pursuing their path despite the storms around them. Like the poor scholar chasing his dreams, or the Taoist heavenly master traversing ancient battlefields, she had seen it all, and carried on with no regrets. Leading wandering souls and ghosts toward transcendence, Ning Yao had seen many things on her journey. There was once a middle-aged official who, despite forbidding the worship of the Sishi Dragon King Temple, eventually knelt in apology for the sake of his people. An old man in his 70s refused to bring his son, but took his grandson to the ruins of his former kingdom, shedding tears as he told him of the towns that once had different names. A scholar, standing by the river during a crimson sunset, laughed heartily at the cries of monkeys, while a beautiful woman rode a horse, drinking amid the smoke of a fading battle. Ning Yao's heart for the Tao remained unwavering, and nothing could shake her resolve. Now, she witnessed another scene. A lonely boy, ragged and unkempt, carrying a basket and a fish trap tied to his waist, gently stroking the head of an old dog. The boy was full of hope for the future. Not long after they returned to Liu Shanyang's house, someone knocked on the courtyard gate. Chen Ping'an and Ning Yao exchanged glances, and Chen Ping'an went to open the door. Ning Yao stood at the doorway, but glanced back at the sword resting quietly on the counter. The one knocking was Lu Zhengchen, naturally leading a wealthy group, accompanied by 2 loyal servants of the Lu family. Lu Zhengchen, with a kind expression, softly said, "You must be Liu Shanyang's friend, Chen Ping'an, right? We're here to move the box. Liu Shanyang should have informed you. You can accept this bag of money without worry. Our lady has agreed to Liu Shanyang's conditions and will fulfill them later." Chen Ping'an took the bag of money and stepped aside to clear the way. The elegant woman entered the courtyard first, followed by Lu Zhengchen and the 2 servants. The wealthy woman personally opened the redwood box in the main hall, reached out to touch the treasure armor, and for a moment, her eyes filled with uncontrollable desire. But she quickly regained her composure and signaled for Lu Zhengchen to move the box. As the wealthy woman left, she paused at the threshold and smiled at Chen Ping'an. "Liu Shanyang truly values your friendship," she said. Chen Ping'an, not understanding the situation, remained silent and watched as they left the courtyard. He stood outside the gate, unmoving for a long time. Ning Yao joined him, and as they watched the group disappear down the alley, the wealthy woman turned back with a playful smile and said, "Youth is great, but you need to stay alive for it to matter." At that moment, on the bridge crossing the stream, a tall boy lay in a pool of blood, his body twitching as blood poured from his mouth. But this time, the boy could no longer hear the dark, skinny figure shouting in a heart-wrenching voice, "He's dead." A crowd had gathered at the northern end of the bridge, murmuring and watching from a distance, too afraid to approach. 2 people hurried onto the bridge. One man squatted down and felt the boy's wrist. After checking his pulse, his face grew grim. The green-robed girl standing nearby was furious. The green-robed girl gritted her teeth and said, "He crushed his chest with 1 punch. Such ruthless methods." The man beside her said nothing. The girl, her hair tied in a ponytail, raged, "Father, are you just going to watch Liu Shanyang be beaten to death like this? Liu Shanyang is practically half your disciple." The man still didn't let go of the boy's wrist, his face expressionless. "But how could I have known that Zhengyang Mountain would act so lawlessly this time?" The girl, now filled with rage, stood up and declared, "If you won't do anything, I will." The man slowly raised his head and asked, "Ruan Xiu, are you asking me to prepare your funeral?" Ruan Xiu boldly strode forward. "Chen Shengdao, I, Ruan Xiu, am not just someone who can make things, I can also kill." The man's expression grew thunderous, partly due to his daughter's rash behavior, but mostly because of old Yuan from Zhengyang Mountain's vicious attack. He pondered for a moment. Since he hadn't officially taken over Qi Jingchen's position, did that mean he didn't have to follow the rules either? Ruan Xiu suddenly stopped in her tracks, noticing a familiar figure, a straw sandal boy, running frantically from the other end of the bridge. When she saw him, wearing his straw sandals, his face emotionless, calm as a still pond, they brushed past each other. She wanted to say something but found the words wouldn't come out. A wave of sadness overcame her, and she suddenly began to cry. The straw sandal boy rushed to Liu Shanyang, grabbing his hand. Liu Shanyang, whose vision was blurred, seemed to regain some energy. He tried to force a smile and stammered, "That woman said if I didn't hand over the treasure armor, she could kill you. She also said, since it was just her and her son who came to this town, if one of them was exiled, so be it. She could bear that cost. I was so scared she'd really kill you. What I told you before wasn't entirely a lie. My grandfather did say those things to me, so I thought, sell it if I must, it's not a big deal." But then, she sent people to find me again, saying the old man had gone mad. When he heard I didn't hand over the armor, he insisted on killing you first, then me. I was really worried about you. I wanted to warn you, so I ran all the way here, but then that old bastard hit me. Liu Shenyang paused, weakly adding, "It hurt a bit." Chen Ping'an lowered his head and gently wiped the blood from Liu Shenyang's mouth. His face, dark and lean, was tightly furrowed. He whispered, "Don't be afraid. It'll be okay, trust me. Don't speak anymore. I'll take you home." But Liu Shenyang's strength was fading, his gaze drifting. He weakly muttered, "I don't regret it, and you shouldn't blame yourself either. It's just that I'm a little scared. It turns out, I'm afraid of dying too." In the end, the tall boy clutched tightly onto his only friend's hand, sobbing, "Chen Ping'an, I'm really scared of dying." The straw sandal boy sat on the ground, one hand gripping Lu Xianyang's hand tightly, the other clenched in a fist, supporting his knee. He breathed heavily, gasping for air. At that moment, Chen Ping'an seemed like an old dog, exhausted and worn out. His red eyes, filled with anger and grief, resembled a dog that wanted to demand justice from the heavens. Chen Ping'an didn't want this. He had never wanted this in his life. Meanwhile, the Lu family's residence on Fulu Street, though small and delicate, held hidden wonders. Even in Qingfeng City, the madam of the Shu family, Madame Shu leaned lazily against the railing, her mood elevated after successfully acquiring the Liu family's monkey armor. She watched the koi fish swimming in the lake as her son, dressed in a bright red robe, tossed fish bait into the water, creating a vibrant ripple of red and white. Turning to Lu Zhengchun, who stood respectfully on the steps by the water, she instructed, "There's no need for you to wait here any longer. After this task is done, you'll accompany us to Qingfeng City. My husband will accept you as his disciple, and will also agree to your grandfather's request, even though it's a bit unreasonable." She smiled to herself and added, "Your grandfather is a clever old fox. Honestly, if he were the head of the Lu family, it might not have collapsed so quickly." Even Song Changjing of Dali, who claimed he could destroy a nation in a year, acknowledged your Lu family's role in its downfall. Lu Zhengchun, lowering his head in gratitude, responded emotionally, "I will never forget Madame Shu's great kindness. When I reach Qingfeng City, I will serve you like a horse or an ox. From this day forward, I will be loyal only to you, madam." Madame Shu chuckled, her eyes narrowing as she softly said, "Such heartfelt words, just don't let my husband hear them. Or perhaps you should repeat them in front of him." Upon hearing Madame Shu's testing words, Lu Zhengchun immediately knelt, trembling, and declared, "I would never dare forget my roots." The wealthy woman waved her hand dismissively, instructing him to get up and leave. "When you get to Qingfeng City, you'll have plenty of time to prove yourself. In the long run, we'll see if you forget your roots or not." Lu Zhengchun backed away, only turning once he reached the bottom of the steps. The former local tyrant, once so powerful, now seemed unable to straighten his back in front of Madame Shu. The Lu family, descendants of a great dynasty, had been severely weakened after their defeat at the hands of the Dali border prince. From top to bottom, they were forced to bow their heads, barely surviving. As Lu Zhengchun left, the boy in the red robe, Madame Shu's son, grumbled, "He's just a natural-born lackey. Mother, why do you bother with such trash? You can't seriously be thinking of having father accept him as a disciple and even promise him the Zhongwu realm. Has the Zhongwu realm become so cheap and worthless now?" The wealthy man smiled slightly. Although Lu Zhengchun looks unpleasant, he is not without merit. His qualifications are average, and becoming an outer disciple was a rare occurrence. However, in the end, this young man is merely a minor figure in a larger scheme. He cannot stir up any waves. On the surface, it seems his mother promised so much to the Lu family of the small town. The royal family members of the Lu clan, fleeing from disaster, can take refuge in Qingfeng City and establish themselves. Qingfeng City would treat them with honor, making them esteemed guests. They even allocated a large area in the city as the private land of the Lu family for a term of 100 years. The child threw out the bait, then suddenly ran out of the water, picked up a handful of stones and leaned over the railing, throwing the stones vigorously at the carp, playing gleefully. Turning to young Qing, he said, "We came to the town to seek monkey armor, but isn't this just a cover-up? Isn't it merely the Qingfeng City Shu family using this opportunity to control the Lu clan? After all, even though the family has fallen, the royal bloodline still holds sway. It's said there are over 3,000 royal family members alone. Adding internal conflicts, servants and vassals, along with kingdom elders who refuse to rely on the Dali Song clan, their presence has greatly boosted Qingfeng City's popularity. Looking at it this way, this place has become the hub of all the fallen ones. It's now the real center of information flow." The wealthy man smiled with relief. "My son is clever to have thought this through," he said, "but he's still mistaken." The boy frowned, waiting for an answer. The wealthy man blinked. "The monkey armor has its own secrets, and in short, it's no worse than that sword scripture." The boy threw a stone hard, hitting a carp squarely on its back. Blood spurted like an arrow, and the poor carp frantically flailed in the water. The boy's eyes burned with intensity. My father is best at war tactics, and his killing power is enormous, not far inferior to Song Changjing of Dali. Unfortunately, he's always been hindered by his weak constitution, and his opponents use a rogue approach of trading tricks, which is why he couldn't make a name for himself and became a laughingstock. Even people from Qingfeng City dare to mock my mother behind her back. Wouldn't it be great if I get the armor, so I can defend myself and attack, competing with Song Changjing? The wealthy man still shook his head. The boy slapped the railing hard and shouted angrily, "Stop keeping me in suspense." He bared his teeth, looking like a young tiger cub. The wealthy man never thought there was anything wrong with his son shouting in front of him. After all, when his son was born, he received high praise from a master, calling him a tiger and wolf, with the qualities of a leader. The wealthy man patiently explained, "After your father got the armor, if he manages to fully understand its secrets, he can advance even further. What defense would he need then? He could easily crush his enemies with sheer force." The boy laughed heartily, joyfully exclaiming, "Kill, kill, kill! When the time comes, let my father start killing from within Qingfeng City. Nothing is more disgusting than the disgusting deeds done by our own people." After laughing, the boy quickly calmed down, suddenly remembering something, and asked, "Mother, by tricking Zhengyang Mountain like this, aren't you really just playing with a monkey? Aren't you afraid that if that fool suddenly wakes up, he'll come after us once he leaves the town? And there's one thing I still can't figure out. That Liu guy, if he already had someone buying his words long ago, why bother with Guji at all?" He had long been close to Guji. Plus, having both the armor and the sword scripture, such opportunities are extremely rare. Even I have to admit, he deserves more respect. Then why has the buyer of the words been so reluctant to show up, allowing you, mother, to fish in troubled waters, and letting that old man from Zhengyang Mountain, Yuan, clean up the mess for us? Once he killed Liu Shanyang with a punch, everything settled down. The huge trouble was then left for Zhengyang Mountain to deal with. As for us in Qingfeng City, we gained plenty of room to maneuver. The wealthy man confidently said, "Yuan, the old mountain mover from Zhengyang Mountain, though old, isn't completely stupid. But he's not so dumb as to be played like a monkey by your mother. In fact, he had already guessed that your mother was using him to kill others. So why did Yuan willingly walk into the trap? The reasons are quite complicated, partly due to Zhengyang Mountain's arrogance, thinking they are invincible, and partly due to an unknown hidden secret. You don't need to worry about that for now." The wealthy man fell into deep thought, once again going over his thoughts to ensure there were no oversights. He didn't want any loose ends. The buyer of Liu Shanyang's words was once a powerful supporter of the Confucian dynasty. After the dynasty's collapse, they lost everything. Before that, they were the top faction in the secular royal court. They spared no expense, even after confirming Liu Shanyang's talent for swordsmanship. Otherwise, why would they have spent so much to keep Liu Shanyang in the town? For the next 9 years, Zhengyang Mountain, through some unknown channel, found out about this and went to negotiate with that poor family, trying to buy Liu Shanyang's birthright. An ancestor of Zhengyang Mountain offered them an astronomical price, but that family refused to budge, claiming they had already sold it to someone else. As for who it was, they refused to say a word. After being baffled by this, Zhengyang Mountain then heard rumors that their enemy, Fenglei Yuan, had seized the opportunity. Taking advantage of the chaos, they made the first move. That family naturally wouldn't dare admit, in front of Zhengyang Mountain's elders, that they had sold the birthright to their arch-enemy, Fenglei Yuan. As for who leaked the information about Liu's birthright, it came from none other than Xu Shi of Qingfeng City. But of course, he stayed hidden behind the scenes. He was the mastermind behind it all. He personally came to the town, spending a fortune to ensure that this deal would, at the very least, break even. Otherwise, his position in Qingfeng City would plummet. He couldn't afford such a risk, nor could he dream of running Qingfeng City independently. In fact, the town is full of hidden talents, not to be underestimated. Not to mention the Liu family from Nishibai Mountain, the other 3 families dominate regions in Dongbao Pingzhou, each one reigning supreme. Their true foundation isn't in how many powerful figures they control, but how many gates they oversee, as this directly determines how many birthrights they offer annually. When a talented practitioner emerges, the buyer often throws in a big red envelope, building a lasting connection. This bond carries more weight than a mere acquaintance. The wealthy man suddenly said to his son, "Never underestimate anyone, not even someone as lowly as Lu Zhengchun, who bows like a dog. You think coming to this town means you can easily obtain those opportunities and treasures? It doesn't work that way." Funan Hua from Old Dragon City nearly lost his mind, and Kai Jinjian from Yunxia Mountain vanished into thin air. Life or death unknown. And a young practitioner with great potential was mentally shattered when observing the water mirror at the Long Bridge. It's like someone carved a huge hole at the bottom of Star Lake, causing the water level to drop. This is only the beginning, and more such incidents will follow. On the path of cultivation, no one is carefree. The child thought for a moment and said cautiously, "Mother, I'll be careful."